What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another game day update. The Grizzlies are on the road for round one, game three. So joining me from Minnesota is Jon Krawczynski, a family friend of the show. He's on for the probably 100th billion time, but the first time for a playoff game. How are you?
It's good to be here. Good to be back with you, and can't wait for this playoff game to start. So the first two games were awesome. I'm expecting the same thing for game three. Let's go.
All right. Yes. So as I had mentioned, it is game three today. That means the Grizzlies, if you watched game two, that was the largest margin of victory for a postseason for the Grizzlies. And this is like a stat that I found that literally doesn't matter, but I just think it's cool. So I'm going to rattle it off real quick. The Grizzlies on the road are 26-15 in the regular season. Home for the Timberwolves, 26-15 for them for the season. Overall, the Timberwolves are up one. Like overall, the whole, anytime they've ever faced each other, it's 51-50. So got a little friendly wager on the line today. The Grizzlies looking to take the series lead. It is tied 1-1. What do you think the key to the Timberwolves protecting their home court for game three is tonight?
Yeah, I think just a couple of things, Kelcey, when you look at the way that their big three stars play, KarlAnthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, DAngelo Russell. This is a team that the Timberwolves know that the Grizzlies are deeper than them, 1 through 12 or 13. They know that they can't match up that way, but they believe that they do have an edge in, like, say, 1 through 3 or so. And so if they can get DAngelo Russell hitting shots, he's 5 for 22 in the first two games. If they can keep KarlAnthony Towns out of foul trouble, that's going to be kind of the keys for them. They want to keep their big guys on the court as much as possible. And that's how they feel like they can outlast the Grizzlies. They did it in game one. Edwards and Towns played really, really well, and they were able to pull it out. Game two, no one played well. KarlAnthony Towns is in foul trouble. Edwards isn't as efficient. DAngelo's missing shots, and then they got blown out. So they're going to ride as far as their stars can take them in this one. So they're hoping that a little home cooking will get them back in the flow.
All right, let's unpack a little bit of what you just said. One of the main things has been DAngelo Russell. In the regular season, he averaged 31 points a game against the Grizzlies, shooting almost 56% from the field. And it just hasn't been like this Grizz killer that the Grizzlies saw in the regular season from him specifically. And a lot of that has to do, I think, personally, having Dillon Brooks come back. He didn't play a regular season game. He is kind of like the defensive stopper for the Grizzlies. Do you think that makes an impact in how Russell plays, or you think Russell is just not shown up for those first two games?
Yeah, no, I think it's a little bit of both, because certainly Brooks has bothered DAngelo Russell, especially in game one. I think that really limiting his touches, not giving him very many clean looks at the basket. And so they kind of took DAngelo Russell out of the game entirely. I think in game two, it was a little bit more of, I mean, certainly still really good Grizzlies defense, but I don't think that DAngelo made very good shot selection. And I don't think that he was locked in from a shooting standpoint. He is kind of a boom or bust player. There are going to be a bunch of games where he's 3 for 14. And then there's going to be games where he's 8 for 14 or 8 for 15 and just blows up and knocks down a bunch of threes and is just hitting everything in the flow. And so the Wolves kind of ride the roller coaster with him a little bit. So far, it's been really down in the first two games here with him. And so maybe getting him back at home in front of some fans that are going to be fired up and trying to get him more in the flow of an offense and not just kind of standing around waiting to shoot. I think those are going to be keys for them to just get, make it a little harder for Dillon Brooks to check him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about getting in the flow. I want to know from your perspective what you're seeing on, I think one of the biggest storylines on the Grizzly side is that Steven Adams was very ineffective in game one, only played 3 minutes in game two, which allowed Jaren Jackson Jr. to be out there. Thankfully, he stayed out of foul trouble. Sorry, Kat, on that end. It allowed Brandon Clark to get more. Xavier Tillman came in and played big minutes in that center position. And I think in game two, the Grizzlies held the Timberwolves to like one of their 10 lowest shooting percentages night of the year. It was like 39%. It was 35% off of like shots off of screens, because the Grizzlies can now switch 1 to 5. And the Timberwolves love kind of like finding that switch, going after Adams, going after the weak link. And there just wasn't necessarily that big, like a big weak link like there was with Adams on the court in game one. What did you guys see from like that side, the Timberwolves side, in terms of the difference it made when they took Adams out?
Yeah, I honestly, Kelcey, I was surprised that Taylor Jenkins stuck with Steven Adams as long as he did in game one, because I think that historically Towns has really just had his way with Adams, whether he's been in Memphis, whether he's been in New Orleans, whether he's been in Oklahoma City. It's just a good matchup for him in using his quickness and being able to kind of take him away from the basket and really open things up that way. So when Adams picked up the 2 quick fouls in game 2, I don't think that was a good thing for the Wolves. I think that kind of forced Taylor Jenkins' hands a little bit, and Xavier Tillman, his activity, kind of his energy really bothered the Wolves a lot. Brandon Clark is a guy who has always really hurt the Wolves with his energy and his athleticism. And so all season long, the teams that have had the most success against KarlAnthony Towns have guarded him with a smaller player, and then used a center to kind of double off of Jared Vanderbilt. So in this case, having either Kyle Anderson or Brandon Clark or Tillman or several other guys, and then having Jaren Jackson Jr. coming off out with a double, it usually really flusters Towns. And so to get the ball out of his hands is crucial for the Timberwolves. And then you factor in the foul trouble. KarlAnthony Towns played 43 minutes in game one. Like they really, really relied on him. And then he was down to 27 or 28 in game 2 because of all of that foul trouble. And so I think it was a combination of the Grizzlies finally going to that small lineup and then KarlAnthony Towns being in foul trouble again. I would like to see what happens with that lineup if Towns is able to stay out of foul trouble and be more aggressive going into the paint and things like that. But Towns has struggled with foul trouble all season long. So he's going to have to be really disciplined and not get the silly fouls that he often gets for the Wolves to really have a chance in game 3.
Yeah, I think I could take those words out of your mouth and put them in mine and put them out again and say the exact same thing about Jaren Jackson Jr., another player the Grizzlies need to have on the floor and has struggled to stay on the floor for a lot of the regular season. And you saw that in game 1. Last but not least, it is rebounding. The team that has out rebounded has won both games, and the 3-point shots. The Timberwolves obviously put up a crap load of 3-pointers. The Grizzlies after game 1 were like, hey, if we want to make more than 7, we're going to have to take more. So they bombed away and obviously found a little bit of success. In terms of the rebounding battle, the 3-point battle, what do you think is kind of like, if you had to single out one like stat, one like little thing that the Timberwolves need to do, if they do this, they set themselves up for success, it would be what?
Yeah, I think that they have to win the math problem by a wider margin. So, they were in game 1. It was shocking, really, that the Wolves out rebounded the Grizzlies, and especially that they beat them on the offensive glass. I mean, that's not something that they can count on doing every game. So the thing that they have to do is shoot a bunch of threes and make a bunch of threes. Cause even, Memphis did shoot a little higher volume in game 2, but they still, they made 10 or 11. And
it wasn't as much as the Timberwolves.
Yeah. And so the Wolves have to be up around 17, 18 to really kind of widen the gap there and get the threes for twos. And so they usually shoot better at home. Maybe with a little bit of energy behind them, they move the ball a little bit better and knock those down. But if you're going to get out rebounded to the degree that generally the Wolves will against the Grizzlies on a nightly basis, where they're going to get so many more shots, that you just have to cash in from behind the line. That's Towns, that's Edwards, that's Malik Beasley, that's Russell, that's Jaden McDaniels. They have a lot of guys that if they are going can pile up the threes in a hurry. But, that did not happen in game 2. The ball was very sticky. It was not moving around. They were not finding good open looks. And so they're going to look to do that a lot more here in game 3. And if they get a few of them to fall, that can really get the Memphis defense scrambling and open up a lot more of the driving lanes for Ant. And then you get dunks, and then you get cheers, and then, maybe the wind is at your back. But if they don't shoot well from beyond the arc, they have other disadvantages that are going to be a lot harder to make up against the Grizzlies if those shots aren't falling.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be such a great series because they're the teams, they play so different. They score so different. And so you live and die almost by the three because of what you said. The Grizzlies get more rebounds normally, which means more possessions, but they score twos. And so
yeah, and
you know,
and they both both of these teams. I think this series is going deep, KJ, is that both these teams are super resilient and tough mentally too. So you lose one game, it doesn't matter. You're going to bounce back. I mean, the Grizzlies did a great job of that in game 2 after disappointing performance in game 1. The Wolves looked terrible in game 2. I could see them coming out and all guns blazing in game 3. Like, it's going to be some swings, some wild ones back and forth. So it's really going to be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, I hope you have so much fun today. I saw the towels that you guys have, raised by wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of cool. I'll give the Timberwolves that.
It's not whip that trick, but we'll do what we can, you know.
You felt that though in the arena.
It was awesome. It was great. I fully admit it. You know, that's the first time that I'd seen it really popping like that. And that was pretty awesome. I had a great time with it.
All right. So folks at home, if you're watching this, the game tips off at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. You can tune in on Valley Sports Southeast. Again, Jon, thank you so very much. And I hope I'm not going to say good luck, but I hope you have fun tonight.
Anytime. Thanks a lot for having me.